right, good morning everybody. I have a question on Quora from Anonymous. It wasn't directed to me, but it was asked if I could answer the question. What is the difference between kosher and non-kosher pickled vegetables? Now, I remember a few years ago, probably, more than 20 years ago, excuse me, there was a reality show with Hulk Hogan, one of my childhood favorites when I was really, really little, maybe 2 years old. I was a big fan of Hulk Hogan. Grew out of that kind of quickly, but then the memories linger. So when I saw that there was an episode of this show, I think it was called Hogan Knows Best, and it was called Kosher Mania. So I got to check this out. And him and his wife at the time, who they'd since divorced, moved into a frum neighborhood in Miami Beach, and she went around to all the neighbors offering cookies, and they're like, "We're sorry, we can only serve kosher. We only eat kosher. We can't eat from your house." So it was quite an interesting little program there. These downhills with this weather are a little scary, but we're managing. Ki Adonai hu Elohim ein od milvado, Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. All right, Baruch Hashem. Whenever there's a car coming from the other side, I get a little nervous. So anyway, here we are. This is halfway, a little bit later than I wanted to, but I'm taking my time to be safe. Oh, anyhow, so they said, he said, what's kosher? Isn't that like pickles? Kosher, that's like pickles, right? Let's see, is this guy turning or not? If he's turning, then, but this guy's turning. This guy is coming this way, so I'm gonna have to do a hand signal because I think I made it. This guy's not turning. I don't want anyone behind me in this weather if I can avoid it. Anyway, so he's like, kosher, isn't that like pickles? That's he kept saying that throughout the episode. Kosher, isn't that like pickles? And they went to Kosher World. It happened that when I was camp counselor at that time, that the maybe a year or two before that, the owner of Kosher World was at the bungalow colony where they had the day camp, and I was the day camp counselor. So I knew the family, and I had actually visited there because I worked for a Hasidic Rebbe as a Gabba, and I would go shopping there at Kosher World. So I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So anyway, Hulk Hogan kept saying, kosher, isn't that like pickles? Kosher, isn't that like pickles? And I'll give you another memory related to this. So I was in Colonial Heights, Virginia, near where I was. The first prison where I was a chaplain was a federal prison, not too far from there. And in Petersburg, Virginia. Actually, it was in Hopewell, but it was near Petersburg. And I guess after work one day, I went to check out the Walmart there, and they had an aisle that said kosher. So I was like, all right, I'm used to Monticello Walmart, where you have a kosher aisle and you got all kinds of kosher food. The whole aisle was pickles. I'm not joking. This is what happened. This was, again, 14 years ago or so, 13, 14 years ago, when I was living in Virginia. I was the Rav down there. I was a rabbi of a synagogue there. And also a chaplain in the prison, very part-time. And I don't know exactly why I was there at the Walmart, but it was, I couldn't believe it. The aisle said kosher, and it was a whole aisle of kosher pickles. So what is this kosher pickles? the truth of the matter is, almost all major brands of pickles that you're going to buy in America today are kosher. They have the OU on them or some other kosher symbol, whether they are called kosher pickles or not called kosher pickles. When it says kosher pickles, all it means is that they use kosher salt for the pickling process. Now, what's kosher salt? Isn't all salt kosher? Yes, pretty much all salt is kosher. So what is kosher salt? Kosher salt means salt that is thick enough to be used in the koshering, or we say koshering process, to remove the blood from meat. Meaning, if you use a very fine, like table salt, it's not strong enough to draw the blood out, because the Bible says we're not allowed to eat blood. So we're so careful that not only do we drain the blood out of the animal after we slaughter it, but even each piece of meat we salt and soak to draw out all the remaining blood, to make sure that we're not violating the law of eating blood. And so the type of salt that is able to draw the blood is a thicker type of salt. Sometimes it's a flaky type of salt, but it can't be the granulated salt. It has to be large pieces of salt. And because of that, that is why it's called kosher salt. Not because other salt is not kosher, but because this is the type of salt that is used to remove blood from meat and poultry, in order that after it's been properly slaughtered kosher, it also draws out the blood, which can only be done when the meat is still raw. And when I was a kid, I thought, if you just sprinkle some salt on meat, it makes it kosher or something. Before I was religious, I didn't know how all this stuff worked. But since I live in an area where there's a kosher slaughterhouse, I've seen it done. I almost started to work in that field, but for some reason they didn't hire me, and I'm kind of happy about that, because I have a much more fulfilling job right now. But nonetheless, that is what it means, kosher salt. And then what are called kosher pickles doesn't mean that other pickles are not kosher. All it means is that it's a way of making the brine using salt that's called kosher salt, even though all salt is kosher. And pretty much when you're coming across pickled vegetables, they're almost always going to be kosher. The only things that would make it not kosher is if something not kosher was used in the pickling process. One example could be a vinegar that's wine-based from a non-kosher wine, because there are different laws about kosher wine than other wines. Most wines, and according to the standard normative opinion, most grape juices are not kosher. That's a different story for a different time. And not only that, but anything that's derivative from those juices, not just from grapes, but from grape juices or grape wines specifically, are generally not kosher, unless pretty much the only way that they can be kosher is that if they're totally prepared by someone who is not only Jewish, but religious, observant Jewish, believing. So it's not a racial issue, because the converts do count, and heretics who are quote-unquote born Jewish don't count. That's a major reason why I say that Judaism is a religion and not a race, because of this reason. Because for this law, a Jew who doesn't believe in God, or even someone who openly violates the Sabbath, is considered to be a non-Jew in that, as far as that law is concerned. In any event, back to what we're saying as far as the pickles. that could be one thing that could make it not kosher. Is that if the vinegar is of the wine-derived vinegar, if it's being pickled in vinegar as opposed to a salt brine, that could render it not kosher. If there's any kind of animal products that are not kosher, again, animal products have some more laws to make them kosher. And some things are more, some things are less, some things are easier, some things are harder to make them kosher. Particularly any type of meat from a mammal or from poultry are, like pretty much the most difficult thing to make kosher, other than maybe matzah from Passover. Those are the two things that, could very easily, even you try to make them kosher and they could wind up not kosher. So that could make it not kosher, theoretically. I don't know how often it is that they put, some kind of meat together in the pickling process. I don't know how that works. I don't think that's so common. And then the other possibility is produce from the Holy Land, from the land that's occupied by the country that calls itself Israel. Although there are parts of that country that are not the Holy Land. I think part of the southern part, a lot, is not part of the Holy Land, and there are parts of the Holy Land that are not under the jurisdiction of the so-called Israeli government. In any event, with that being said, if produce is grown in the Holy Land, and you'll have to excuse me, I'm driving to work right now, and I'm not going to edit this video. I just put them up there. So you're getting me in real time. I learned that from Rabbi Bart Sadok. Just people want the real you. Anyway, when it comes to this, the produce that's grown in the Holy Land, it's when it comes out of the ground, except for on the sabbatical year, and then there's a whole bunch of other laws with the sabbatical year, it's not kosher. And it only becomes kosher once the required tithes and offerings are removed from the produce. And there's a lot of complicated laws about the tithes and offerings. So if you're Jewish and you buy Israeli produce that doesn't have a proper rabbinical supervision on it, or sometimes it might have one, and you still might want to be careful and still take a tithe maybe without the blessing, just consider it to be demai, because we don't know how trustworthy some of these rabbis are. And according to Satmar Rav, it's better not to remove any produce from the Holy Land. I mean, actually, I think whenever he would visit the Holy Land, he would only eat produce from outside the Holy Land. He wouldn't eat anything that was grown in the Holy Land. He'd only eat things that were imported. But in any event, anything that's grown in the Holy Land has more laws and has the potential of not being kosher. But that's not so common. Generally, if you're going to buy pickles from Israel, they will have a good hechsher on it, especially whatever's being imported and sold in kosher stores and stuff like that, or sold in the kosher area. And I'm not as strict as the Satmar Rav with that. I will eat, stuff from Eretz Yisrael as long as it has a good Badatz hechsher or another good hechsher that I trust. But that's pretty much what it comes down to, is the possibilities. There's, pretty much the simple answer is that almost all the vast majority of pickles that you're going to buy in America, unless it's from a private company that might use, the same utensils or vats for non-kosher things, pretty much everything's going to be kosher that you're going to buy in America, as far as pickles, and that they're called kosher pickles. That only has to do with the type of salt, and all salt is kosher too. It's pretty basic. There are rare possibilities that pickles could not be kosher, but you're pretty much not going to run into any of those. I don't know if they even use wine-based vinegars in any pickles that are commercially available, or at least widely commercially available. And that could actually be for that reason, meaning that they'll use a grain-based vinegar or another vinegar rather than, and probably I'm thinking wine vinegar would not give the right flavor for pickling, although I could be wrong. So that's pretty much it. Other than that, your pickles are probably kosher, even if they're gherkins or whatever else. And just that they're called kosher pickles has nothing to do with it being kosher or not. I hope I educated you today. If you made it this far, hit the bell button, hit the subscribe button. I know a lot of our viewers are not subscribed, and I think part of it is that a lot of folks, perhaps, not the types of folks that this video is aimed at, but folks in our community, if you did make it this long, who they don't subscribe to anything. If you have a Gmail account, a Google account, you have a YouTube account, and you can subscribe, and it doesn't cost you anything. I know some people have these conspiracy theories and stuff about Google and stuff, but the fact of the matter is, it really helps this channel, helps me out. You're doing a chesed for another Yid if you're subscribing, playing my videos, hopefully watching them, but you could just kind of play them in the background as well, and just let them play, without watching it, whatever. I'm kidding about that. But if you find this, or look at some of my other channel, on my other videos, I have some great playlists. I've been on YouTube for a long time. I have videos going back, again, 15 years more back, even more really, videos going back 20 years before there was YouTube, and there was Google Video at the time. So if you're new to the channel, and you're interested in Jewish stuff, I have videos of Rebbes, of Chasanas, and Tishin and things, just little snippets that I took on a digital camera, uploaded to Google Video 20 years ago. And like I said, these have been transferred from Google Video over, so you can see videos of Berach Moshe, Zichron Livracha, of different Rebbes, Square Rebbe, Tulsaran Rebbe Shlita, Square Rebbe Shlita, Spinker Rebbe, Zichron Livracha, one who passed away a few years ago, from their Tish, from the different things on Sukkos and different Yom Tovim, Chasanas, Achnas Sefer Torah, like when Square Rebbe came to Queens, when Tulsaran Rebbe came to Queens, because I learned in Queens. If you're interested in that type of stuff, just to see kind of somewhat historical type of stuff. Some of them I did edit. I did, I have the Berach Moshe's Levaya on the channel. And one of the playlists is Rebbe videos. So you can look at that and see some really interesting, historical stuff that, I think it might have the Pittsburgher Rebbe's Rocha. So a lot of the tzaddikim that are not with us anymore. We have videos, so check it out. You might enjoy it. And again, thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe. And if also, the other thing is, if you want to make dedications for any videos, you have an idea of a shiur. I do twice a week, a regular, like, short Parsha shiur, one on Kedushas Levi and one on Maharal. Might be a 5-minute video, 10-minute video, depends on what's going on. If you want to dedicate those, you can reach out to me. I'm pretty easy to find on Twitter, Facebook. I think you can go to my channel description, email me. Or what some folks have done is they've sponsored videos. They have a particular question, something they want me to talk about, and I'll answer for anybody. It could be from any community, from any background. My particular view, I can't say that what I'm saying is the Jewish view, but I will try to be as educated as I can, bring different viewpoints, different answers. And even without that, if you have questions, put them in the comments below. I'll do my best to make videos responding to those. That's how I'm trying to build up this channel, make it into something that could be monetized again. Trying to get over that 4,000 hour mark, which it's been a couple of years now, and because I was monetized back in the day, getting checks here and there, a couple $100s a year, and I would like to get back to that point. If I got to a point where it was a big channel, I could dedicate time to editing, but the truth is I work full time. I do this, it's a little bit of therapy for me. I'm trying to stay away from the politics because it's gotten me in trouble on so many levels. So right now I'm just trying to stick as much as possible to Torah. I also upload my podcasts as videos on YouTube. I do podcasts once a week now. We used to do twice a week with Rabbi Kivlevich from, he's Rosh Hashiva, Rosh Medrash in IDT. And so you can listen to those here as well. So it doesn't cost you anything, but I do have a Patreon, but I haven't really set it up yet. So maybe, again, it's the kind of thing that probably I need a bigger audience for it really to be worthwhile. But it is what it is. So again, thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe, comment. We'll see you later.